Rescue workers searched for bodies in the Bahamas today, and thousands of residents evacuated to shelters. The Abaco Islands were devastated by Hurricane Dorian. Relief operations are underway, but it has been a slow and difficult process. Amna Nawaz gets a report from the islands.
Judy, it's been a week since Dorian struck the Abaco Islands and part of the Grand Bahama. It's been slow going to get enough food, water, and supplies to these places. As much as 90% of all the buildings and structures on the Abaco Islands appear to have been destroyed. Areas like Marsh Harbor, where there were many Haitian immigrants, may not be habitable for any real length of time. There's also been difficulties in getting supplies to people in need, and there's been talk of possible strains between the local government and some relief groups. Today, government officials were asked about why some flights aren't getting to the hard-hit islands.
Priority is given to those entities that made contact with NEMA. That is one of the functions of NEMA. It is to coordinate. And so we are not preventing persons from getting in, but it has to be done in an orderly fashion. We don't want a disaster upon a disaster.
UNICEF began delivering water supplies this weekend after a plane landed with 1.5 tons of supplies. Naqib Safi is an emergency specialist for UNICEF. He was in Marsh Harbor yesterday, and he joins me from Nassau by Skype. Naqib Safi, welcome to the News Hour. You were just in Marsh Harbor. Some of the hardest hit areas are there. Tell me what it was that you saw and heard on the ground.
Devastation. Almost all infrastructure, houses were flattened. At the airport, when we arrived, we saw a long queue of children, women, and the rest of the families who were evacuating in a flight towards Nassau. We drove almost for 5 to 7 hours in different locations. We talked to people. We saw destruction. We saw desperation, and when we talked to individuals and different groups who were taking shelter in churches, school, and in one case within the government complex, they were all stressed and they were desperate for help.
Naqib, I have to ask, there have been dozens of accounts of people fleeing, people evacuating, people leaving. When it comes to basic needs, water and food on the most basic level, are those getting through to the people who need them? And if they aren't, why not?
What we have observed in all these areas, at least in 9 specific centers that I can refer to, food and water was provided through either private donation, government, and whoever was, working and providing assistance. What I have seen, there were food available. Of course, it's the matter of for how long, but at the moment, it has not been an issue of serious concern in a given moment.
So we heard earlier from one of the Bahamian emergency management officials, and this has been a criticism we've heard again and again now, that there have been difficulties with some relief organizations working with the Bahamian authorities on the ground. Can you tell me a little bit? Have you seen those kinds of tensions? Is it any more difficult to work with this government than others?
There are realistic challenges on the ground, especially in a crisis of this scale and magnitude, which was unexpected, and it was much more bigger than initially thought. The stress, those who are dealing with it, they're part of the affected population, and everybody's stressed. So if there are occasions that we see some level of dissatisfaction, that's actually a normal nature of these crises. I have been to many crises around the world, and I don't see anything different. In addition, actually here, the government is allocating resources, and they are showing quite extensive level of commitment and determination to provide support and facilitate other partners' access to the people in need.
Naqib, very briefly, it's already been 1 week since the hurricane struck. Do you see that the people on the islands, the people of the Bahamas, will get the aid that they need, or will leaving be the best option for many of them right now?
In Abaco, which mostly has been affected, I think 90–95% of the population has already left. Remember, these percentages should be taken into the context, because we are still figuring out, and when I say we, the government and the partners, to see what are the exact number of people staying. The return of these people would need significant level of investment of rehabilitation of water system, power supplies, infrastructure, etc. And most importantly, from our perspective, a sense of normal and education for children. Which I don't think it will happen, at least in the very near future, because it will require quite significant level of investment and reconstruction effort.
That is Naqib Safi of UNICEF joining us tonight from Nassau. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.